When it comes to the roster of Mortal Kombat 1, everyone plays in their own way. You have all of these combatants that thrive in some way, shape, or form, from hard-hitting combo damage or to having amazing specials that help them keep great pressure on their opposition. And then there's this guy.
Reiko.
Reiko's an interesting case in this game because he's a fantastic zoner. He is able to keep pressure away from himself by way of specials and normals, but for some reason is also a command grabber. So he has tools that push the opponent away from him, but also has tools to get up close and personal with him. Compared to my first video on Reptile, link down in the description, Reiko is such a different type of fighter compared to anyone on the roster, so even for me, it is weird that these two are in my top 3 along with Li Mei being my third. Reiko has only been playable in his debut game being Mortal Kombat 4, and then of course being in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, so the slate was very clean when coming up with a fighting style that worked for him. Reiko is definitely a combatant that takes time to learn his hit animations and how they work in strings and with cameos, but once you've learned them, he is certainly a dangerous weapon in the right hands. Like I said, he is the zoner in this game, and so much of his kit would just push the opponent away from him, but after watching this video, you'll be able to turn this boring gameplay into something like this. Reiko has an arsenal of moves that can hit from all different ranges and push the opponent away from him in various ways. He is a heavy hitter and definitely a strong weapon. Let's look at some of his basic moves. Starting off, we'll look into his back 4 low takedown. Reiko has a bunch of highs and mids on his kit, so this move is definitely a good one to throw in to catch your opponent off guard. This move is 3 on block and flawless block, so even if it is blocked, you can then go for something quick like a dash into his held rider back down forward 1 special. This standing base 3 face breaker is a pretty quick high kick that can hit from a fairly nice distance. Reiko has his red aura on his kick moves that shows you the distance it can hit from, so keep that in mind when the next few kick moves come into play. This kick is one of his many solid kick moves. This standing 4 move is another one of Reiko's kicks, and like the one mentioned above, hits from a pretty good range and also is pretty quick. The block advantage just goes down from -5 to -8 comparatively, but the range on this is why you want to use this move, because your opponent, at least in my experience, is not aware of how far this move can actually hit from. The forward thrust kick is another great kick that can also, like the other two, hit from a fair distance. This is one of Reiko's zoning kicks, meaning it hits hard and pushes your opponent back significantly. You mainly need to watch out for this due to the move being -15 on block, so you could get punished if you're not using this effectively. But in doing this in mix-up situations, it could be favorable for you. The brutal backhand is one of my favorite moves on Reiko's kit because it's literally just backhanding the life out of your opponent. It is very quick and also 8 on block and flawless block, so if your opponent blocks it, this move is very safe to mix up if you're quick enough to capitalize on it. This standing forward 2 is Reiko's base overhead move, Bloody Pitcher, and it's pretty solid in my opinion. Unlike his other moves, you have to be a bit closer to hit it, but it's usually a good tool to have in your back pocket to knock your opponent down, and then go for a quick dash grab move. Reiko has a diverse arsenal of special moves on his kit, from his well-known throwing stars to a pretty great parry and of course his command grabs that are all pretty solid in my opinion. Looking at all of these moves, you can definitely keep your opponent guessing on what to do next. This is Reiko's parry move. It's pretty quick, only having 8 starter frames, and in my opinion is pretty strong due to it being able to parry high, mid, and overhead attacks. Doing this move grants a quick clothesline and a side switch, so it's very good for something like you being pinned in the corner and using it as a quick escape. If you enhance the move, that's where it gets real fun. You can punish your opponent by doing the same, but you also keep them standing, which sets them up for more damage. This is one of Reiko's command grabs, and it's a great tool in his kit. This grab has 2 variations in the main variation that ends in a side switch, and then of course another one by doing the same input but holding back if you want to stay on the same side. You can enhance this move that is unbreakable in a combo, but at the cost of 2 meter bars. It is a hefty price to pay for this grab, so pick and choose your battles. This is the move that Reiko is very infamous for, his Shuriken. This move is a great zoning tool and something that many Reiko players abuse because of how easy it is to do it and it being his main form of zoning. The base stars throw 3 projectiles and act as a high, but if you enhance it, you get 6 stars and they act as a mid. These Shuriken can also do some pretty good block damage and can be spammed, but between you and me, do not be like those other Reiko players. They can't sit with us. Reiko has 2 charge moves on his kit, that being the Charging Pain and the Charging Knee. The base move is a slide that can be hit as a low, but you have to be careful as the move itself is -27 on block and can be easily countered. This move can also be delayed by holding 3 if you're doing it, and on the flip side can be cancelled by hitting down twice before you hit the opponent. The enhanced version of this move is one of the best on his kit, being a slide that pops the opponent into the air. This can set up for more damage via cameo or even help set up your fatal blow. The other variation of this move is a running knee that acts as a mid and is a little safer here, being a -20 on block and -10 on flawless block. This move pops up your opponent with a knee to the gut, and just like its counterpart, can be used for more combo damage and for setting up your fatal blow. This is Reiko's other grab, and popular to contrary belief is actually a mid and not a low. This grab is one of the best ways to end your combo strings, and that is what I recommend you doing in order to get the most optimal use from it. This move being -14 on block can be countered and punished very quickly, speaking from my experience. Enhancing this move adds armor to it and is unbreakable in a combo. From my time in Mortal Kombat 1, Reiko has proven to be such a great asset in my arsenal. Along with the zoning tools, many of his moves mix up and hit from different ranges. However, where he falls short is chaining these moves together. You can only really do certain things and in a certain order without running the risk of your opponent flying across the screen away from you. Regardless, he's still a hard hitter and great for the mix-up distance alone. Let's look at some of Reiko's combo starters and how they react on hit. Starting off with his crude company 1-2-3 string. This sets up for a massive zoning kick from a high into 2 mids. The entire string itself is -2 on block, so if you're quick enough you can mix up a quick move in there. If you want to ensure a neutral ground, do 1-2 for a 0 on block to make it fair game to whoever can get to the next move first. The Lethal Tactics forward 1-2-4 string is a launcher that can help Reiko chain into his air moves, which yes he can indeed do, and air control cameo moves for more damage. This move is great because it does set up for more damage either with or without a cameo. The main thing you need to look out for with the string is the punishability. Being -15 on block, it can be pretty unsafe to go for if you're not careful enough. The Raid 2-1-4 string is an off play of the 1-2-3 string mentioned earlier. This is a high into a mid into a low and can usually result in a hit about 95% of the time from the low alone. This move is -6 on block, so it does have a bit more in safety compared to the 1-2-3 string, but just like its counterpart, doing 2-1 without the floor included is 2 on block, so be quick and you can capitalize on your opponent. This basic 2-3 string has potential to be extended with some of Reiko's other moves. This move is 2 high kicks in succession that can lead into a slide or even his grab. This move also chains very well with his launcher and allows for you to do more damage after the kicks. This 4-3-4 string is a 3 high kick succession move, and just like the basic moves I've talked about previously, it also has a red kick aura, so it hits from a fair distance. This also falls under the zoning tool list as these kicks push the opponent significantly away from Reiko. It can chain into the forward 1-2 launcher as well, and pushes the opponent away from the opponent, but adding a cameo into the mix or any other air combat, that's where it gets weird. Take this string with Scorpion. Notice how I wasn't able to hit the other hits, and the hit reaction is very different after being hit with different things, especially when a cameo comes into play. Take note of this and also the -13 on block, which could definitely set you up to be punished. Cameos are such a massive influence to how you approach your gameplay style and how you survive in a match with your combatant of choice. Due to Reiko being the zoner combatant in this game, I believe he's very cameo dependent when it comes to setting him up for high hitting damage. Many if not all of his strings cannot chain well together and will just end up pushing the opponent further away from you if you try to do anything more than once. This is why picking the right cameo for Reiko is crucial to playing him effectively. You're basically at your weakest without one, and at that point people start to panic and spam the shuriken until their cameo meter is back. For Reiko, you want a cameo that's going to help chain your moves together and set up for harder hitting combo strings. My top 3 choices in how I approach playing Reiko are Sonya, Khameleon, and Goro. Let's take a look at each of these and see how Reiko can really thrive with the help from the outside.
Sonya Blade.
When it comes to all the cameos, I love Sonya. I definitely recommend her to anyone that is starting out in the game. She is definitely one of my top picks and pretty much safe to match up with anybody on the roster. I've paired her up with Reiko due to her being able to extend combos in the air and some of his ground moves, as well as punish and grab one at a close range and aid in a little zoning of her own. All around, she has the perfect tools in order to set up Reiko's opponent for more damage. This is a very solid base cameo move for pretty much anyone on the roster. Everyone now has air combat strings, and this move is used to help extend those moves and to help you set up for more damage. Reiko has 2 air strings, with his main one being J121 that chains very well into this move. You can do the other one, however the timing would need to be precise as the hit animation for J214 pushes back very heavily. This move can also chain into his base ground moves like 4-3-4 and both special versions of his back 4-3, charging pain and charging knee. This move is Sonya's projectile. You can do one of two things, call the move and then fire it as a knockback, or hold a charge and go to a low attack since your opponent will have to block one of the moves regardless. My favorite setup with this charge variation is going to the back 4-3 charging pain since the rings act as a MIG, giving Reiko a clear shot to slide underneath the opponent. This is Sonya's famous grab move. This is a staple on her kit and allows for you to flip your position while slamming the opponent on the ground where they bounce for a brief period of time to allow for more move potential. While this move is a grab, it is blockable since it acts as a mid-attack, and of course the range is very short so you need to be up close and personal in order for it to land. This move is good for extending Reiko's combos while getting the upper hand on its opponent.
Khameleon.
Khameleon is such an amazing addition to the Kameo roster. She has 3 different forms in Jade, Katana, and Mileena that rotate and each have 2 move variations. Each form lasts around 5 seconds and then switches in the order of Jade, Katana, Mileena, and then repeats back again. Each of these forms definitely have their strengths and weaknesses, but the versatility of each of the forms is definitely the reason you want to pair her up with Reiko. Starting off with Jade, we have 2 moves that are widely known with Jade in her arsenal, that being the glaive throw and her glow. You can do this to stun your opponent and then knock them back into you for a move. You can also change the trajectory of this move by holding up or down as you throw it. My favorite thing to do with the glaive is to throw it and then go for the back 4-3 slide. Either way, this guarantees a hit because the opponent is going to have to block one of the attacks regardless, and it is better for them to block the glaive because that can be comboed off of. Jade's second move is her glow. This serves to make you immune to projectiles. Activated by doing forward cameo, this will help if someone's trying to outzone the zoner, which doesn't happen a lot, but it can indeed happen. This move does not make you invulnerable though. It does get knocked off of you if you do get hit, so be careful if you're wanting to get close to your opponent. Moving on to Katana, she has 2 of her series legacy special moves, being the fan toss and the fan lift. These both are really good for Reiko because it can help set up both of his moves for more potential than if it was just him by himself. First off, the base fan toss. You can do this move as a high projectile to knock your opponent down. You can also do this move while your opponent is airborne to keep them in the air and capitalize for more punishment. Katana's second move is her fan lift, and it has 3 different distances that it can hit from, holding forward or back with forward cameo as the move hits, for a far or a close distance respectively. I like using this move to get an airdrop on the opponent like J3 into his back 4-3 takedown, or doing his forward 1-2-4 launcher into a 4-3 kick, which is an extra hit you cannot normally do in the airstrings. Mileena has 2 of her best moves in the ball roll and the air side. These 2 moves are very strong and help with combo extending on the ground and in the air. First, her base cameo ball roll is a super quick move that is an overhead cartwheel into a ball roll and then pops the opponent up super quickly and at a fair height. This can be used at a full screen to help Reiko with the zoning and also pop up the opponent after a short string for some more air damage. Lastly, Mileena's specialty weapon, her Sai. This is an air move done by holding forward cameo, and just like her previous move, is pretty quick. This move is solid for air extension and helping Reiko get the most out of his air combat. Finally, circling back to a move that all the disguises have, the back cameo move Broken Mirror. This cameo move sees Khameleon come out and put an effect on you to where you have become made of glass and the next attack you endure is halved in damage.
Goro.
Goro, in my opinion, is very slept on as a cameo. He can be very strong in the right hands, and considering he has 4 of them, that's very strong. Each of his moves set up Reiko for more damage, from his field summonable air pop-up and knockback stun, a grab that launches the opponent for air combat, his iconic and yet mildly infuriating air stomp, and even a pushback zoning tool of his own. While you may not see Goro used with many of the meta combatants, he still thrives in his own way and definitely shines when it comes to Reiko and his kit. This base cameo move is very versatile due to it basically having 2 variations and it being summonable at pretty much any range. Starting off, the move itself sees Goro popping out of the air and on the field to throw his hands up in the air and stun the opponent briefly. This move can also be placed in any position by pressing up or down in addition to the cameo move. The second variant is an air pop-up / air control move that pops up the opponent briefly to extend for more air damage and grab moves as well. The next move we get is a fun one because it is a 6-hit string punch walk that pushes the opponent back and leaves the opponent open to Reiko zoning tactics. The best use of this move is when it's blocked because it's 9 on block, meaning you can get your opponent quick enough you can grab them and capitalize on their block. The Shokan Stomp is something that Goro has had ever since his first appearance in the first Mortal Kombat in 1992. This move has traumatized players, and as someone who started in Mortal Kombat 4 where Goro was also the sub-boss there, I also share those traumas. This move uses the base Raise the Roof, and then by pressing your Kameo button again sends Goro in the air to come down for a devastating stomp. This move uses the full Kameo meter, so do be cautious if you're going to use it. It is unblockable and summonable by pressing up or down when the second Kameo input is pressed. This is Goro's throw move, and while it's pretty good to launch your opponent in the air, where it falls flat is needed to be done in a combo or after a hit that stuns your opponent long enough for Goro to come down and grab you. You can't do this move outright, which makes it very weak compared to other Kameo grabs, but if you stun them long enough to do so, you can grab your opponent and flip them in the air long enough to get some air combat in. Let's talk about Reiko's Fatal Blow. His Fatal Blow does 350 base damage like everyone else, but of course with Reiko being the command grabber of the game, it is a grab move and only able to reach a short range. You would need to be basically near your opponent to hit it, as it can easily backdash away from you. As for the frame data, it has 15 on startup and has no block advantage due to it being a grab, but it has 63 recovery frames if you miss it. That is basically 1 whole second of you being vulnerable for your opponent to capitalize. Reiko also has 2 variations of his Fatal Blow, one being a straightforward grab with a Fatal Blow input, and the second being an airborne variation by pressing the Fatal Blow input and holding up as it happens, which I just learned today as I was in the lab writing the script. For the best chance of this hitting, I would recommend stringing this in with a Kameo or waiting for your opponent to be vulnerable enough to grab them, such as them falling from the air in front of you or being pinned in the corner where they cannot back away. With Reiko's Fatal Blow being a grab, it cannot be blocked, but the downside being you have to be close or your opponent has to be in a state where they cannot easily back away from it. You can do basic strings like 1-2 into the Fatal Blow, or with his launcher 1-2-4 into a 4-3 in his up variation. From playing Reiko as much as I have, I found the most optimal way you can do his Fatal Blow is with help from a Kameo and enhancing your charging pain back 4-3 move into a 4-3 kick to lead into your Fatal Blow. Using Striker, you could do something like this, or if you want to mix it up and use Trimmer, it could be done like this. Reiko has 6 base brutalities, 2 of them which are universal to the entire roster, being the classic and the grab variations. When it comes to combo ending brutalities, you can do 2 of them in the combo ending with it, but the other 4 have to be done alone. Let's take a look at each of them and see how we can get the most out of Reiko's brutalities. The classic down 2 brutality is something that everyone has and is of course a callback to Johnny Cage's fatality from the first Mortal Kombat in 1992. To land this brutality, you have to do your down 2 move and hold 2 on the last hit. This is the second universal brutality that Reiko has, and it is done by pressing his grab move and pressing forward 3 times during the move. This move is really great because of the callback of his fatality in his first playable appearance in Mortal Kombat 4. Once you grab them, do a kick so strong it knocks everything off of you with a little style at the end.
Even as a corpse, you're disappointing. Brutality.
This brutality is his back down forward 1 Pale Rider special move and is done by holding down as the move hits. This move is very good as a grab variation due to throws being able to hit through blocks, but the downside being you have to be super close to hit this move and quick to ensure your opponent doesn't counter your move. This brutality is one of my favorites that Reiko has on his kit just because, and no pun intended, of how brutal it is. Doing his tactical takedown down back 3 move, press down 3 times to really show the lengths that you will go to make sure your opponent really suffers.
Wasted on you. Brutality.
This brutality comes from Reiko's parry, the retaliation move. I love this move normally, but it's probably the hardest brutality to land due to you having to time your opponent's last breath hit to your special move. After doing down back 1 and holding 1, you do a clothesline from hell that would make JBL proud and show that sometimes your greatest enemy is yourself. This final brutality comes from his Crude Company combo string and is a spin-off of his grab brutality mentioned earlier. To do this, hit 1, 2, 3 and hold forward as your final move hits to do a kick good enough for Sparta, sending your opponent's torso clean off their bottom half. Reiko has 2 fatalities, and in my opinion they are some of the most brutal fatalities in this game. Reiko is a hard-war trained soldier who will do anything to ensure victory, especially for General Shao, and I think these 2 fatalities definitely prove that. The only small detail I'm not too keen on is him using this spear that he cannot use normally. It feels a little bit out of place since it's only shown in these moves and his fatal blow, but I'm definitely willing to put that aside for these finishers. Mortal Kombat is known for its grotesque ending moves, and Reiko definitely has shined in that department. This fatality showcases how tactical Reiko can be when it comes to finishing his opponent. He pulls out a spear and slices the opponent, drives them through it, and then goes for a grand finale by driving his hands into the ribcage and pulling them down, leaving their head on the head of the spear. To do this, stand at a mid-distance and input down, down, back 2 to showcase a finish straight out of William Golding's Lord of the Flies.
Fatality. Reiko wins.
This fatality is hands down one of my favorite, if not my favorite in the game. Mortal Kombat has always been infamous for its brutal fatalities, and this showcases just that. Reiko, being a hardened soldier bred for war, shows absolutely no remorse for his opponent and will make sure you feel every little bit of this before you hit the light at the end of the tunnel. Standing close to your opponent, input back, down, down, forward to do a more brutal take on the classic spine rip and bring back a little trophy for the general.
Fatality. Reiko wins.
I want to thank you all for watching my in-depth Reiko guide, and I hope you've enjoyed and maybe even learned that Reiko can indeed do more than just spam his shuriken. While Reiko and his fighting style may not be for everyone, he is definitely a good tool to have in your back pocket, especially if you know how to play him effectively. After playing Reptile for as long as I have, I picked up Reiko because I knew people were using him just to throw shuriken, and I quite literally wanted to take this man to new heights. Hashtag Air Reiko. Hopefully if you enjoyed this, it may entice you to pick him up yourself. If you liked what you saw, consider checking out my other in-depth guide on my boy Sizoth and subscribing to the channel where I propose 3 shorts a week and videos whenever I can get them out. Corporate America check. I also stream at twitch.tv/IconicCurve, and you can find me at my socials down below. Again, stay tuned for more Mortal content. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.